Hi boys, today I'm going to teach you how to make my apple pie. Now this is such an easy recipe and I'm going to teach you such an easy way to make pie crust that you will never buy store-bought pie crust. So before we get started, let's talk about the kind of apples that you're going to use. Picking the correct apple for making a pie is really important, and what you can actually do is do a blend of these different kind of apples that I'm going to recommend. Today I'm using a Fuji, but you can also use a Braeburn, a Cortland, a Gala, a Granny Smith, or a Pippin. Any of those are really good apples to use. So if you're in the produce section, maybe just get kind of a mix of those. You're going to need 7 to 8 of those, probably good size. Let's talk about the rest of our ingredients that you're going to need. You're going to need white all-purpose flour. You're also going to need white sugar. You're going to need just a little bit of salt, ground cinnamon and ground nutmeg, lemon juice, shortening, and you're going to need egg white and a little bit of cold water. Let's talk about the tools that you'll need. You're going to need a good bowl for mixing your pie crust. This is my favorite. I've been using it probably for 28 years. You're also going to need a bowl to do your apple mixture in, and of course your pie plate. You'll need your measuring cups and your measuring spoons, a rolling pin, a paring knife, and your pastry cutter. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and get all of your tools and your ingredients assembled. Preheat your oven to 375, and then we're going to begin by preparing the pie crust. We're going to begin with our pie crust, and the secret to good pie crust is not to work it too much. The more you work it, the tougher the pie crust is going to be, and it's not going to be nice and flaky and soft when you bite into. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, so we're going to start with the flour, and what I want you to do is, using your bowl, I want you to add 2 1/4 cups of white all-purpose flour. So I've got 1, and I've got 2, and here's my 1/4 cup measure. And I'm going to put that in. And to this, I'm going to add 3/4 teaspoons of salt. Okay? So I'm going to add that. There's my 1/4 and my 1/2, and that gives me 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay? And using your pastry mix or cutter, you can just kind of stir that in. Next, you're going to add 2/3 cups of shortening. Now, I really like these shortening sticks because it allows you to look on the side in the guide and really make sure that you use the correct amount. So I've got 2/3 cups, and I'm going to kind of slice that in with my paring knife. And then using my pastry cutter, I'm going to kind of chop and blend that until my flour mixture resembles kind of small peas. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to show you how mine looks. I finished mixing my shortening into my flour mixture by doing, using this motion with my pastry cutter, and you see how that's nice and it looks like kind of like small peas. This is what yours should look like. Now we're going to add our final ingredient, which is water, and this is when we talk about not working your dough too much. Okay, with this you're going to use just a regular knife, and you're going to start adding your water a little bit at a time. The total amount that we're going to use is about 7 to 8 tablespoons, but we're just going to kind of work it and see how it looks. So I've added about 4 tablespoons, and then using my knife, I'm going to just kind of mix it in. And my goal is to make sure that there are no dry ingredients left in here. We're going to make sure that everything is wet and it kind of clings together. So we're going to add just a little bit at a time of the water until we have that mixture. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to show you how my pie crust looks. I finished working my water in, and I just realized from reviewing the last segment I said knife and I meant fork. So I've added just enough water to get the dough to cling together. Now we don't have any dry mixture left. It's all clung together. And I'm going to reach into my flour and I'm just going to kind of sprinkle that on my baking table. And I don't know if you can see that with a camera. Hopefully you can. I try to adjust the height okay. And then I'm going to take my pie crust out, and kind of with my hands very carefully kind of fit it together so it's a nice round ball. Just like that. Again, we don't want to work it too much. This isn't like a bread dough that you want to knead. Okay, and then using my nice paring knife, I'm going to cut it in half because I'm going to use half for the top and half for the bottom. Okay, so I've got my flour done on my baking table. I'm doing that so that my dough doesn't stick, or my pie crust. And then I'm going to just sprinkle some flour onto my rolling pin, and I'm going to roll it out into a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to show you how it looks. All right, so I finished rolling my pie crust out. I'm going to adjust this so you can see how that looks. See how it's nice and round like that? Now this is going to be my bottom crust. What I want you to do for prep is I want you to take your pie plate and the wrapper that's left over from your shortening, go ahead and wipe that on the inside. This is going to keep your pie crust from sticking, okay? And then this is kind of the tricky part. Using your rolling pin, you're going to kind of ease your pie crust onto the rolling pin like this, and then you're going to roll it into your pie plate so it looks like this, okay? And then just using your hands, just kind of work that in there, and then using your knife, you're going to trim it just till it's, let me show you how much I'm trimming, just about that much. Trim that all the way around. And you can use a table knife if you're kind of nervous about using the knife that I have, the sharp knife. You can use a table knife, okay? So I'm just kind of whack that around, and let me show you how that looks in my pie plate. And then I'm going to tuck the edges in just like this, going all the way around, okay? I'm going to do that, and I'm going to show you how it looks. My bottom crust is now into my pie plate, and I've tucked all the edges in. Doesn't it look pretty? And what I've done with my second half, which is going to be my top crust, I've now rolled it out into a nice circle, and this is when the kind of fun part. You can get really creative. The important thing with pie is to vent it. It gives it some place so that it can bubble up and your pie doesn't kind of make a mess. So you can be really creative in what kind of design that you want to make. I'm going to do one that's just kind of a little squiggly line like this. And then I'm going to cut some cuts into it. But you can do like any kind of leaf design or anything. You can get really creative with that. Go ahead and do that, and then we're going to get started on our apple portion.